Hi, and welcome to MindShifters Radio. Today is Friday, March the 27th, 2026. And we welcome you to the show. Hello, Susan and Carrie, and welcome, Michael.
Thank you, dear heart, and welcome, everybody. Delighted that we're here. And Miss Susan had a question for us, and I know Carrie's got one too, but I'm going to run through the question that Susan had texted me and see what kind of thoughts come out of that. So Susan had sent me a question that said, let me get to the... Been a busy morning. All these texts going back and forth. So Susan 6 said, of course, our conversation's been about the difference between suffering and pain. So Susan 6 this morning said, when Yeshua was on the cross, he said, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Does this not mean that he was making it mean that God might be abandoning him? And if so, wasn't this a bit of codependence, fear of abandonment, and perhaps even suffering? Crazy to pursue answers we can't know, but you have me thinking, and it's all your fault. Well, I'll gladly take responsibility for getting you thinking, dear heart. That's awesome. That's always an upward motion. Any thoughts to add before I offer some thoughts here?
Nope. Go for it, Michael, as you would say.
That's it, eh? Okay, well, actually, I'm going to just post. Give me 1 second here. I am posting my answer. Let me get to Zoom. And there's my answer. Did it come through?
No, I don't see it in the chat. Where'd you put it?
Okay, now this should be
the picture.
A picture. If you back out of your screen, you'll see a picture there.
In my texts?
No, on the main page of the
Zooms.
I don't. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's a very nice looking cover there.
It's getting pretty close to the final cover of the new book I'm working on, and I will remove that. Let's see. Need to go back here, and so my answer in regard to that would be just how outrageous it would be if they were his words. And if you think about, what traditional Christianity tells us is this is God, right? So here's God hanging across saying, God, why have you forsaken me? Is there any universe in which that could possibly make any sense at all?
Well, if he's both human, fully human, I would say the fully human self hanging there would say that, or could say that.
To himself.
The fully human expression of Christ, Jesus.
So the fully human says to himself, God, why have you forsaken me?
Yeah. If he's fully human, fully human, at that moment, he might have been human enough not to be aware that he was God.
To forget who he is. So God now is forgetting who he is.
It's blocked.
The all-powerful, the all-knowing, the omniscient, the omnipresent has forgotten who he is. Well, that's probably the case of most human beings, so there's certainly a sense in which that would make sense. But my offering is it's total, complete mistranslation. It's not even relative to what he said.
What would the Aramaic say? What did it say? Do you know? Do you have it?
Yes. Two interesting things. One, you'll notice the Greeks say, we wrote it down, this is ours. But the words that he replied with in this case, it's interesting. The Greek translations say, this was left in the original Aramaic. The Greeks are standing around, all the Greek scholars saying, this is the original. It was written in Greek. But here we have the Greeks saying, we left these words, Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, in the original Aramaic. And there's so many conflicts, it's unfathomable, but obviously it was all done in Aramaic. And the words Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani, first of all, Eli, Eli would not be my God, my God. It would be a much more intimate greeting, a much more intimate expression of Father, Papa, Papa, Daddy, source of my creation. And in Aramaic, the word set aside for a special purpose and abandoned or rejected, pushed away, are very similar. And there's where the mistranslation comes in. So my take would be that instead of being dejected and, oh my God, I've been abandoned by the Creator, myself, what he's saying here is said with excitement and great aliveness, because he's finally, he, the human being, has gotten the full picture. Oh, Papa, Papa, oh, for this you set me aside. Got it. So my take would be, if you look at just the last few hours there, Yeshua's in the Garden of Gethsemane. He brings the support team along with him. They all go unconscious. He goes out and he's like, can't you stay awake for an hour? Can't you stay in being for 1 hour to hold the space for you? Can't you hold the space of love for me for just 1 hour? And they're blotto. They haven't dealt with death. They can't do it. He goes through the mega healing crisis of sweating blood, detoxing, the last of the energetic patterns in his structure that could possibly kill him. He walks out of the garden and he confronts the high priest servant who has been injured. And instead of doing what any normal non-human would do, is take the sword out of Peter's hand and go after the high priest servant. He rebukes Peter for using the sword to the point where he calls Peter Satan. Supposedly his highest student, he calls him Satan, which would be quite an insult in Aramaic if it were the Greek idea of Satan. And the high priest servant, who he knows is going to mercilessly slaughter him, he heals him. He does what a fully human being would do. A full God-realized human being would do. He functions as love. And he heals the man who's going to mercilessly slaughter him. And then he goes on through the crucifixion and then Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. Oh, I got it. So if I stay connected to my being, what I've been teaching people to do, to stay connected to my original essence as love, in that space I am eternal. If I do not identify with the constructs of my carbon-based memory, oh my God, they're going to kill me, then they can't kill me. Even if they kill me, they can't keep me dead. That would be my offering on that. And the whole bottom line, what is it that I go into a conversation about somebody else about and what's wrong with them, and I hold my breath and shut down my life force? That's my work. And of course, we live in a culture that is so filled with denial that everybody that does that talks about somebody else. The pretense they're talking about themselves, but you'll notice that the conversation's all, well, I'm doing this because, well, wait a minute, let me tell you what they did. They did this, and they did that, and he did this, and she did that, and they did that, and blah, 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 blah. And all the while, and when I'm talking about how they and they and they and they, I'm holding my breath and I'm killing myself by withholding the life force from myself.
So, Michael,
Yes.
in the second part, Lema Sabachthani,
Mhm.
what the meaning you told us was very different than why hast thou forsaken me?
Night and day. That's why it's all Greek.
So, but those are the Aramaic words.
Right.
And I know that Aramaic is different. It's an organic language. Those words might have many meanings. And I know when your committee worked, you came to consensuses about what something might mean because nothing could be nailed down. It had to go through your intuitive gut loving human selves in order to come up with a consensus. And that's as good a way as doing it as anything. But there's a wide range, isn't there, of possible meanings? And I'm wondering, could you take us from why hast thou forsaken me to, oh, I get it?
Well, as I say, the word in Aramaic is very similar to the word forsaken. It's just a misinterpretation. I mean, my take is there is absolutely no such thing as a Greek translation of Yeshua's words. Anywhere on the planet, you won't find it. It doesn't exist. Because to be a translation, it has to accurately represent what was going on in the mind of the speaker. And virtually every key idea that Yeshua taught and spoke is exactly backward in the Greek interpretations. That's why I say there are no translations. There are no Greek translations of Yeshua's work. So, like the one that you and I go round and round about, been doing for years now. In Aramaic, the word love represents the being that you are created, the essence that you are. It's got nothing to do with what you're going to do to somebody else. And it's got nothing to do with somebody else can possibly do to you. So Yeshua speaks of maintain Rachma, the gateway that keeps your human life alive in you, and you now have a human life. Aramaic. Greek, love your neighbor. Do something to your neighbor. Be nice to your neighbor, approve of your neighbor, whatever you want to give it. The word's turned 180 degrees out of phase. It's turned backward. Forgiveness. Yeshua says, you have some form of hostility or fear in you, and you built a picture of your brother out of that image or out of that unresolved data. And so now I'm not going to ever suggest that you forgive your brother. The Greeks will tell you to forgive your brother, but I'll never suggest that. I'll say forgive as to your brother. If there's something in you that you put into your brain's image of your brother that's causing you pain, you have to get rid of it and stop your conversation about them and have a conversation about yourself. Whenever you've got somebody who's telling you what's wrong with somebody else while they're in pain, they're liars. They're just stuck in their own projections. And so virtually every key idea, forgiveness has become pardoning. Love has become something to do with sexual athletics. We call it love, and it's got nothing to do with it. And we could go on and on and on and on. Law becomes the rule of a superior, according to the King James, who's the guy who wants to be the superior that runs everybody's life and scams all of their wealth and puts it in his pocket for his disposal, for his wars, for whatever he wants. In Aramaic, Yeshua says, hey, I can tell you how it works. Here's the law. Here's how it works. Everything's been turned backward, including, oh, thank you, Father. I see why you've reserved me, as opposed to, oh my God, why are you throwing me away? Why are you abandoning me? Why are you forsaking me?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, virtually everything gets turned backward. That's why there are no translations of Yeshua's words in Aramaic or in Greek or Latin or Old English.
When your book comes out, Michael, there's going to be an explosion somewhere.
There's going to be an explosion. Yes, yes. I'm. The more I'm working on it, the more I get into the neuroscience of it. I've been doing a lot of neuroscience research and verifications, things to back this up scientifically as well. And what the latest research is verifying is exactly the experiential breadth of Yeshua that he brought forward. And I think, yes, I think it's going to create a theological explosion.
Mm.
If it gets into theological hands, and I'm not particularly interested in getting into theological hands, the idea is going to be to set it up so that it's available to anybody who wants to pick it up, and it's going to be written not in theological terms. In fact, let me just
Michael, you're muted.
how did I get muted? I don't know how that happened.
Blame it on something else, Michael. You pushed the button.
No, I obviously must have, but it was done definitely unconsciously.
Well, I'll tell you, my mute button does weird things. Anyway,
that's it. It's the mute button's fault.
Yeah, it's the
I'm with you on that. Yay! I've got agreement now.
Yeah. So, as I was writing yesterday and Wednesday, what about this, suffering thing and all of that? One of the things that I did was I underlined all the different things that I needed to do worksheets on. And then I thought, okay, so I'm projecting all of this out onto another person or another thing. And how do I do a worksheet on myself about all these things? So I was going to ask you about that, but I don't really want to interrupt what you're doing here, because I have also heard that the crucifixion is a metaphor for some sort of internal work that's going on, and resurrection. So I'm really interested to hear more of what you're saying.
Okay, cool. Okay, I'm not finding the piece that I had written, but basically what I had written as part of my introduction to the end of it's all Greek to me, was that making it clear that this is not a religious text, though it has a reference to what has become called religion, but what we're talking about here is physics and physiology and psychology and genetics. We're not talking about theology. Men made it into theology to create control systems. So what my thesis is, what I'm basically working to prove is This is all just life where we live. It's not about what happens in some sacred building somewhere, except the temple that you inhabit as a sacred building. So yeah, I think it's going to create some stirs. I hope it does. But again, I'm not writing it as a theological text. I'm writing it. It's going to confront a lot of the theological presumptions that come out of the Greek texts and out of the Old English and out of the Latin. One of the theses is going to be, there is no such thing. There is no word spirit in Aramaic, or Holy Spirit, or, that used to be the Holy Ghost. There's no ghost involved here. It's physiology, it's breath, it's the lived experience of the breath of the Creator that brings intelligence and healing into your piece of dust that you call your body.
So
pulling it back from the theological realm into, it's just where we live.
I was under the impression that the concept of spirit was first proposed by the Hermetic teachings.
I don't know whether the Hermes brought that forward. Hermes was of Greek origin, so that may be one of the places it's come through.
Yeah.
But in Aramaic, the word that Ruka de Kucha, the Greeks translated as pneuma, so it's breath. They translate it as pneuma, which means breath. Pneumonia, pneuma, it's got to do with the breath. And then it transitions from pneuma, and it gets into the Latin, and the Latins make it spiritus. And now we've got the whole breath becomes the Holy Spirit, and all of a sudden it doesn't any longer live in our nostrils. It lives in a church somewhere. If somebody approves of us, then we get to be knighted with the Holy Spirit. By changing the meaning of the words, the solution was removed from us, from awareness. If you tell somebody to connect with the Holy Spirit, and they go, well, what is that? Well, it's this sort of thing, this ghost that, if you fit into right conditions, you get to have, and then, boy, your life really rocks. Or, so if somebody tells you that, that's one thing. But if somebody else says, why are you holding your breath? You're cutting yourself off. Direct relationship with the Creator. You're cutting yourself off. You're destroying your life force. You're moving toward death every instant that you spend holding your breath. Oh, now we're down where people live. And and I'm working to get the language right so that makes sense, because that's the literal truth of it. So what I'm looking to do, and one of the workshops I do is Aramaicisms, and Aramaicisms is a term that I coined to represent my efforts to bring the original Aramaic meanings of the words, the original Aramaic function, back into common parlance. And anywhere that you hear somebody talking about this ghost or this spirit, throw the word away and come back to what's real, your breath. And now you're back in tune with Yeshua's original rescue plan that some people call salvation. What are we being rescued from? Our own held breath, our own internal energies that we've turned into pictures of other people that keeps us convincing everybody that somebody else is the reason why I have a problem. Bringing back, you must forgive from your heart, your unconscious, that which you projected into your brain's image of your brother. And even psychology, if you look into the realm of psychology talks about projection as, it's out there, it's something out there. No, that's not projection. Projection is a totally internal process. When I take data unresolved in me and I put it into my brain's image of my brother, Yeshua would say, you've got to forgive from your unconscious, from your heart, that which you just put into your brain's image of your brother. Forgive from your heart the wrongs of your brother. So forgiveness applies to me removing what's in me that I put into my brain's image. And then the final step that allows me to pretend this has got nothing to do with me is the image that's in my mind. I externalize it, pretend it's actually out there rather than paint it on the inside of my own eyeballs. If you destroy one of those ideas, you just destroyed the whole teaching of Yeshua. Because you can't access what he gave without those ideas. And why, I mean, it's interesting in the Aramaic, one of the pieces of information I've been going back to a lot of research, and one of the pieces of information that came from Dan McDougall, who was my partner in writing The Laws of Living. And at one particular point in an article that he wrote, and he was working with the Georgia prison system. And I forget what the number was. I think it was something like there were 22,000 inmates in the Georgia prison system. If I remember now, it might have been 122, but my memory says 22. And at that point, where there were 22,000 or 122,000, whichever it was, there were only 6 Jews in the prison system in Georgia. He had access to the original, and they lived closer to the original than what the Greeks told them. And if you look at the number of people, go into the churches around the country, especially the ones that are based in anger and fear, and look at how many people are in jail. Look at how many spousal abusers there are. Look at how many child abusers there are. And it's outrageous. So for me, the objective is to get us back to putting the resolution back in our nostrils and having a mind that understands that that's where the resolution is.
So I have a huge question about projection.
Cool. Let's go for it.
So
Tell you what, before we go on, that's a good question to go to next, but let's come back and just check with Susan and see if with her question, have we satisfied that, Susan? Is there another aspect to it? Does that make sense?
No, it does make sense. Thanks a lot. Go ahead to Carrie. It's juicy over there.
Okay. So when I am looking out through my eyes in the world, and
let's go step by step. If we don't have the truth, we can't bring correction. You've never looked out through your eyes at anything. You can't see anything through your eyes. Eyes bring information in. The information that comes in, literally carried on light energy, causes brain cells to fire, and brain cells firing creates a picture in your mind.
Okay, so
the picture's not outside of you.
So the pictures in my mind, interestingly, everyone agrees
that
they have a picture in their mind of my bookcase that has books in it.
Mm-hmm.
And we all have the same picture. So
No, I don't think we do have the same picture, because I look at it and I go, oh, that looks like a really interesting book on medicine. And somebody else looks at it and goes, oh, there's a bookcase. Look at, oh, there's a really interesting book on cars. And somebody else looks at it and says, oh, look at that book on history. We didn't all see the same thing.
But you all saw bookcase books. So my perception or my question has to do with the idea of oneness, and that we are like holograms, and that what we have actually done in universal mind is we have made an agreement about things and what the world is, that there's a spinning world with a globe, that there's stars, there's earth under our feet, that we are all projecting out the same story of matter.
No. You had an argument with your whoever, let's put any name in there, and you were in the same room, in the same environment, the same radio was playing in the background, the same pictures, the same fan, the same lights, the same art on the walls, and you walked out of the room and you had one description for what happened, and I guarantee you the person you had the conflict with did not have the same
Okay,
reality
but
or the same
you're talking about
description.
what happened. I'm talking
No, I'm
about
talking about
matter. Matter.
Oh, well, then let's go to the science. Let's talk to Einstein. On such things as matter, we have been all wrong. What we have heretofore called matter is energy, energy whose vibrations become so low as to be perceptible to the senses. There is no matter. The man who won the Nobel Prize in for discovering quantum physics, the theory of quantum physics, agrees 100% with Einstein and says, I've spent my whole life studying this thing called matter, and it doesn't exist. That's what I'm saying. If we don't have the truth, we can't ever arrive at healing.
Okay, but I think that matter is energy. I agree. And I agree that matter is just energy vibrating at a lower frequency so that it coalesces into things like bodies and bookshelves and carpets and phones and lamps. And my husband will say, go turn the lamp off. So I go turn the lamp off because he and I both agree that there's a lamp that needs turning off.
Yes. Okay.
So we're projecting out that same picture of a lamp that needs turning off.
Well, wait a minute. So we're in the same room looking at the same lamp, and I go, you know something? That is the ugliest damn lamp I've ever seen. And you look at it and say, Michael, that's an art piece. That's Art Deco from 100 years ago. It's worth $200,000. It's one of the most beautiful lamps in the world. Every art dealer in the world will agree with me. And you're right, every art dealer will agree. And I look at it, I go, that's an ugly piece of crap.
Okay, but
We're
now
not looking at the same reality.
but you're talking about a judgment about the lamp. I'm talking about the lamp, that the lamp exists in matter because it has a low vibrational energetic quality, and that we both see a lamp, whether we have a judgment about whether it's beautiful or ugly is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that we agree that there's a lamp there that needs turning off.
Okay, then I guess I'm not hearing your point. Then tell me more about what you're trying to distinguish then, because I'm not getting it.
The projection of our world, that all of us are in universal mind have made an agreement that we're going to create this world of matter for us to function in and have experiences in. And we have agreements that are holding this world together, that there is Earth. We have agreements that there is a lamp. Whether we see the lamp in the same way or not, there is a lamp. There is that
Okay,
thing.
so I'm missing your point. So what's the point?
The point is that we have an agreement about our projections. Every single one of us.
My take is there's so little agreement about our projections. You know, there are people right now that are dancing up and down with such joy and such delight about their projection, about thousands of people being slaughtered in Iran right now. And there are other people that are in depression about it. There's no agreement on that.
But
We
that's the
agree the
feeling,
bombs
Michael.
were.
That's
Well,
the feeling about it.
No, that's the reality. That's the reality in the mind. That's the reality projected by the mind.
But,
I mean, otherwise there'd never be anything to discuss. Oh, well, the lamp is the lamp. The person who shot the person is the person who shot the person. The person who beat up the little kid beat up. It's like, well, it's all the same. It's not all the same. That's my offering. It's not all the same.
We have agreement that this world has been created.
Okay.
And what you're talking about are the emotions attached to something or the judgments that we attach to something. I'm talking about the something.
Well, okay, then let's talk about the something. Here's what quantum physics says. By the simple act of looking at it, I changed the something. It's called the observer effect. That literally the energy that I bring to the something that I think is actually out there changes the something. So there's a different something for you and a different something for me. Though we say, well, it's the same lamp.
And I think we have made an agreement that there is a something there. In universal mind.
Okay, all I can say is I still don't understand where you're going with it, what that means for you. I don't understand your projection in this case.
Okay.
So maybe you can help me understand.
I don't know how to say it any differently. Does anybody else understand what I'm saying?
I think
No.
I understand a little. I think maybe I have it wrong, but I think what you're saying is there is a basic consensus among all of us who share bodies, have bodies, I shouldn't say share, have bodies on the planet. We'll all agree on some very basic things. Anything above that is an interpretation, is a take on it. But below the take and the interpretation, it's because we're here. How did we get here? Because we all somehow agreed on some very basic things about being on a planet. And you can say it's a good planet, it's a fertile planet, or it stinks and it's horrible. You can taking away all the adjectives until you get to the thing. And I think Carrie's talking about, here we are, we have a basic agreement. It's very basic about the thingness that we're dealing with. Carrie, am I close to it?
Yeah, you're close because so everyone who has met me knows that there's a body here called Carrie. They may have different projections about it, different ideas about it. But if I walk into a room and say hello to everybody, everybody says hello back. They all agree that this body called Carrie just walked into a room. They all agree that they're sitting in a room.
Okay. So where do we want to go from there?
So the agreement is this in universal mind is that there is a universal projection of the world. There's a universal projection that there's a bookcase, that there's books, that there's bodies. So
Well, I wouldn't call that a project. For me, that wouldn't be a projection. I acknowledge that there's a bookcase. That to me isn't a projection. It's just, okay, so we agree that there is what we call a physical, even though the scientists can prove to us it doesn't exist, we agree there is a physical world. But to
So
me,
I'm not, so
that
are you
would
saying I'm not seeing a bookcase through my eyes?
absolutely, I'm saying you're not seeing. You've never seen anything through your eyes. You can't see anything through your eyes.
Okay.
The eye is a
So,
one-way valve. You can't see out of it.
so
Information comes.
how then do people agree that there's a bookcase?
Here's how they agree. Light energy comes in. We've all had brain cells built in common. You've heard of the thing of cultural shock. Culture shock is the fact that somebody is brought up in a different part of the world that has totally different projections, totally different structures for everything. When we come from our culture and we walk into another one, there's such a conflict because there is no agreement on, there's so many things there's no agreement on. Their experience is through a language and through a set of brain cells that if I'm from a different culture, I don't have. And when I go into that culture, I'm going to be in shock because I think, well, of course, they're all sit there. It's all the same for them as it is for me because that's the way it is. We got an agreement on that. The fact is, it's not an agreement because when I go there, I mean, there are things they do and say and understand that I can't even relate to. Culture shock, and things that I do and say that they can't relate to.
And
So
all of those,
my take is what I hear you saying is the agreement that we're talking about is we all have an agreement who have the same brain cells. But if I go into a culture that comes from a different language and a different experience, they may not have any agreement whatsoever with most of what I understand to exist as out there as a bookcase or anything else.
well, I've been and I've lived in many different cultures and I've
Yes.
experienced that and I've experienced it. And to me, it's a shift in subjectivity, not objectivity. So I understand that when I go to India, people see a river as a living entity, whereas we don't here see that
There you go.
river
Different
has
brain
its own.
cells.
So yeah. However, we agree that there's a river there.
Well, we may agree there's a word we call a descriptor we call river, but that descriptor does not. If I'm India and in India and I understand that to be a living entity, when you say river and I say river, there's no agreement between us. We may see flowing water, but there's no agreement in my mind. If I'm the person seeing a live entity, I may when you throw garbage in the water, I might just go into a fit of rage toward you for the assault you've just done to this living entity,
And
and you're
that's
like, what the hell?
subjective.
What the hell are you talking about?
That's subjective. That's all subjective. That's all. So and I speak more than one language, and I understand that there are concepts and ways of thinking that are different in different languages that you can't express in a different language in the same
Right.
way. So I get
Right.
I get the whole Aramaic thing. And however, we still have an agreement that if I go to France or if I go to India, we still agree that we're on an earth. We still agree that we live in a house. It may look different, but it's still matter in the way we interpret things based on their vibrational quality. We still see similar things. I still see a body. They see bodies. I see bodies.
I don't understand yet where you're going with this. Where is this taking us? I don't get it.
Okay, so where it's taking us is me not understanding, I guess, the nature of projection, because I have always understood projection to be the subjectivity of the mind, not the objectivity of the mind.
Well, okay, so great. I think for me, that gives us a step forward. So for me, that would take us back to the lesson in the Course in Miracles that says, I haven't given this all the meaning that it has for me. So when I was 3 years old, I had a bookcase fall over on me and I was really badly hurt and suffered for a long time. And here I am 30 years later and I look at a bookcase and I was like, oh, the construct my mind has is certainly different than the construct that the kid who their favorite subject was reading and they had books and bookshelves and they just read, they've been reading their whole lives. They look at a bookshelf and they go, wow, that's so sweet.
But they're
I
still
don't go, that's
looking
so
at a
sweet.
bookshelf. But
Yeah.
they're still looking at a bookshelf. So
What's the point? Again, you come back to, you say that, but when you're talking about projection, okay, so let me try again to define for me what I'm talking about when I say projection. One, it is, I mean, one of the basic principles of this culture is I see with my eyes. I'm offering that that's a lie. Now there is a bookshelf over there and there's light energy bouncing off it and it comes into my eye. But I'm not seeing it through my eye. I am receiving information about it. There's something out there that I'm receiving information about. And my brain, according to what resonates in my brain cells, I create a construct. And I project what I see as a bookshelf from my brain cells into an image in my brain. And that image I'd offer, that projection, is painted on the inside of my eyeballs. Now, the stimulus for both of us is the same, so we have a certain basic agreement about what's there. But that doesn't mean I'm seeing what's there. I'm seeing a projection, and then the projection I externalize and pretend what I see as a bookshelf is actually out there. What you see as a bookshelf is actually out there, and we're seeing two different bookshelves. Yes, there is the same stimulus, the same energetic dynamic coming into both of our eyes. But what I'm offering is that projection is when something resonates in me and I turn it into a picture and I paint it on the inside of my eyeballs and I think that it's out there, I'm living in a projection that exists only between my ears. What I'm experiencing exists only in one place, and that's between my ears. And then I pretend that what's between my ears is actually out there, and that's externalization.
Okay, so I can then walk over on a floor that I believe is there with feet that I believe I have and touch the bookshelf that I believe I see. And the person next to me does the same thing. There's an agreement there.
Yes, I'm with you. Yep. But that doesn't change the fact that the bookshelf that I'm seeing, that the seeing that I call seeing, is a product of my brain. It's generated by my brain based upon an energy that everybody says there's an energy there. Yep, I agree, there's an energy there. And the qualities that I give it, and this, to me, it's like this is where we get down to where the rubber meets the road. If there's anything that I hold some sort of pain, trauma, drama, hostility, or fear about, all of that is my projection. And when I understand that it's painted on the inside of my eyeballs, then I have access to the ability to change that because it's something inside of me.
So I can change the bookshelf into a refrigerator?
That's not even relative to what I said.
Well, what can I change? What is it that I can change?
So I'm the kid who had the bookshelf full over me, and I had a lot of suffering and pain, spent years in a hospital over it, and I'm still crippled because I cancel all those thoughts. When I look at a bookshelf, that's what I experience.
Okay, so
You look at a bookshelf and you were the kid that loved reading and you experienced delight and joy and aliveness, and isn't that fun? When I realize that my experience is something that is made of energies inside of me, I now have the choice to change what's happening inside of me. Doesn't mean I have to change the bookshelf, but the experience I'm having, my projection, is up to me. Doesn't mean,
okay.
although again, science will tell you the objective reality isn't what we think it is. But let's presume that the objective reality is there is the floor and there are the feet and there is the bookcase. But the point of the work is, if there is any form of drama or trauma, pain, or suffering involved, back to our suffering topic, I can change that because it's coming from inside of me. If I believe it's caused by the bookcase, then I can never change it.
Okay, so that, I mean, I agree with that, the subjective part, the emotional meaning and all the meaning that we give to a thing is projected and is able to change.
Yeah, it's inside of me.
Okay, so the world.
Okay, then we're in agreement.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. And that's what I said before, is that I see projection as the subjective part, as the emotional, as the meaning. But I guess I don't see projection as the actual thing. I don't see the world as projected.
Let me see if I can come at this in a different way and maybe get a different point across that I'm hanging with. And I don't even know that the point's even necessary, but here I am. I'm here with my grandson, and I look over and I see a desk. And on my grandson's nose, there's a fly. And the fly looks over and sees a desk. Do you think the fly sees a desk? I mean, it's the objective reality. It's there. Does the fly see a desk? No, the fly sees what its brain cells hold, whatever that looks like. If, the frog looks at it, the dog looks at it, the cat looks at it, the perceptual apparatus, we have the opportunity to take charge of and shift and change. Doesn't mean I'd have to change the desk.
Okay, well, I'm going to think about this some more because, like you said, you're not getting it, and I feel like I'm not getting it. So
okay, we'll find a way to get it.
I'm going to maybe just
put
journaling on
something
that.
in the text. Andrea, maybe she could talk. She can't put her hand up. Andrea had a thought along these lines. I wonder if I understood her text. Maybe she can speak.
Hi, guys.
Hey.
And ladies. Carrie, I feel like I understand what you're pointing to. And if I'm not quite understanding it, maybe my words can help activate more specifically what you're asking. So what I'm hearing is this conversation around projection. And what I'm actually wondering is actuality, like the way that it's been explained to me through Doris Cannon. Are you familiar with her, Carrie? Oh,
yes. Sorry, I was on mute. Yeah, I've read all her books. Yeah.
So I haven't read a lot of her material, but it helped give me language to something that maybe may hold a lot of truth. And she talks about how we all agree before coming in to separate, like into separation in a way of being individual things so we can experience. The way I understand actuality is the original divine blueprint, which is to come here in form, experience form as oneness, enjoy curiosity, playfulness, to experience through form. And so what I'm hearing you say is you're saying, okay, well, there's a desk. There is a desk because we agreed, just speaking on a human level. I don't know what flies and cats and all that see. They're having their own collective experience. And we agreed that these things we would get to experience in that dream of form. And what I hear Michael, like Dr. Ryce speaking to, is the meaning.
Michael's fine.
Okay. Is the meaning that we give to it, which creates separation of suffering instead of the separation in form, knowing you're the oneness experiencing itself through joy and fun. And so what I feel like I'm hearing you say is like this deep desire to have this part like validated and celebrated, that we all came here to experience a collective reality. Like Dolores will point to, you know, if we all go to a event, that event only exists because we all agreed to it. And as soon as we leave that event space doesn't even exist. It was a collective agreement. And I'm feeling like we agreed to that experience in form before we came here in a progressive way, you know, first in huts and then in the architecture we live in now, and so on and so forth. So is that kind of what you're pointing to?
Yeah, that's exactly what I said. I called it universal mind.
Yeah.
Rather than, you know, that, because, and that I also said, because we're one, we're like holograms.
Mm-hmm.
So we have this agreement. We have this agreement about things. And yeah, that's exactly right.
And so it sounds more like you were wanting Dr. Ryce to speak to that, which I'm really starting to feel like that is actuality, that we came here to have fun and play and be in love, be in the oneness, also knowing that we're on a journey without distance to a place we never left, while holding all those truths at once. And we get to experience things like a desk and writing things out and individuating and all the things that we choose to experience.
And
so
we get to also experience projection and negativity, and we get to experience the whole range of emotions.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so it sounds like what maybe you were asking Dr. Ryce is, can he speak to the actuality? Is that what you were asking?
In terms of projection, yes.
Yeah, like the collective agreement, because I think he's breaking down the science of projection from a space of suffering, and the way the Course in Miracles or other teachings, you know, illuminate how the meaning you give to something outside of the law of one, or that everything is one in love. And I lost my train of thought, but you were speaking to just that collective agreement of actuality that we were coming or dreaming to play in. And he's breaking down the science of projection and suffering, and how we're experiencing either actuality or you know, the painful separation in our, you know, inside of our heads, the dream that we're dreaming, that there isn't anything to look out at.
Yeah, and I think both of those are existing simultaneously
Mm-hmm.
with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you said it beautifully. Thank you.
Welcome.
Sweet. Where to from there? Does anyone have another thought to offer? Everybody silent? No closing thoughts?
Well, I do feel, this is Carrie again.
Yep.
I do feel that that's kind of clarified the confusion that I had about projection in Andrea's words, and that there are those two things. There's the actuality that we hold together through agreements, and that's a projection. That's a kind of collective projection through universal mind. And there's also the projection of meaning. That we give to things.
That's definitely an important point.
So I now see that those both coexist.
Cool. And we could throw in just quickly there's another whole theory that in fact each of us is generating the desk, and that I generate the desk that I see, and you generate the desk that you see, and there's another coexisting possibility there. And for me, one of the main points that to me is most important about projection is to recognize that if I'm feeling something that is related to pain and suffering, that the reason I'm feeling that is because I hold an energy. And if I think or speak as though the energy that I'm holding, that I classify as pain or suffering, is caused by something outside of me, then I dissociate from the very cause, and that renders me unable to change it. And when I can own it, then I can change it. Thus, forgiveness becomes a key tool in the process.
And that's the hope, right? That's the tool for going back to the oneness. Or remembering,
Yes.
because we are all
Remembering,
one.
yeah.
We're not going back,
Yeah.
we're just remembering.
Yeah, going back to the what the Zen master said to the hot dog maker. Make me one with everything.
Yeah.
Cool. Sweet. All right. Well, it'll be interesting on Monday to see where this conversation arrives, what the process is between now and then, and appreciate each of you. Anyone have another thought to add before we close out?
Well, thank you, Michael, for hanging in there with me.
I'm with you 100%. Cool. All right. Thank you all for joining us. Have a blessed one. Bye-bye.